continue from where we stopped last time, which is this one I said I want to explain, which is reduce. So I said I want to explain this reduce before moving into what we are going to be doing today, which is week two. So under the week two, we are going to be dealing with objects. We're going to be dealing with yeah, these are what we're going to be dealing with, and hope we'll be able to cover all this today. I know some of them. Let me quickly finish with this. Let me quickly. Is my this thing loud? Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you very well, sir.
Okay. So, what is this reduce? You said you've used it before, so nothing much about it. We just use it to, just like the name, you reduce all the data that you have into a single value. So, and you can use this function or this method on the array to create aggregate data. So most of the time, what you use it for is to create aggregate data. For example, now, what if I want to know the sum of all these scores? So what you can do there is to start taking them one by one and you add it together. So by doing the loop. So here now you can just use this here for each loop there for of which is this for of. Then you have the data that you're getting from the array there. So you have the scores like this, and outside there you're going to have a variable, so it can be const. It have to be let because we want to change it. For example, it's going to be sum. And what do we want to do here? So for every data that is coming back, we just want to do this plus the data of the score, depending on the name you are calling it. So we are getting all the value from this our list here, and for each one of them we are just adding it to whatever we have with the sum. So if you want to add it or if you want to multiply them together, you can do any of the action here. The same thing too, we can just say the multiplication of all the number here. So this one is going to be 1 because it's multiplication, so you can multiply by 0. It keeps turning everything to 0. So here it is going to be mul, then multiply by whatever the data. So here now, I can console log out my sum, and at the same time I can console log the multiplication of the number that we have here. But instead of you using this method, you can actually use the array functionality that is, as you can see, this is the sum. Let me increase my stuff. So this is the sum of the numbers, and this is the no, the multiplication of all the number that we have inside this array here like this. But how do we do the same thing using the reduce? Because reduce can actually do this thing for us too. The way the reduce work or the nature of the reduce is this. So you have your array. On this your array, you are going to call the reduce. So this reduce is expecting a function from you, and that your function, which you can use arrow function here, which is something I'm going to use. So it is going to give us whatever the previous value. What is previous value? I will explain that. Then you are going to have the current value, and at the same time you are going to have the entire array that is given. But most of the time you don't really need this because you already have your array down here, or I can just use this square bracket directly to reference array. So anytime you call reduce, we need to give it a function. That function is going to give us the previous value. What is previous value? Is we're going to see it soon because this one will always change, and this one too will always change based on the data you have. So we have the current value, and yeah, so the next one, in case you need it, so we have the index and you have the actual value that you pass into it, but most of the time you don't need this one. Let me expand this window very well so that we can see what is going on. And here, you're going to do whatever you want to do with this function. And from here, we have what we call initial value. Because when you want to work with the array, for example, like this array that we have here, we want to reduce it. And what is reduce going to do? Whatever this reduce is going to do is that it will give you all these value one by one, and whatever you return, it will always, you know, reduce them to a single value. So for example, here we have this our array. So we have this array. Let me list it out. So we have this array, and we want to do something. We want to reduce it to a single value because this your reduce, we always return a single value. But that single value can be objects, it can be any other type of value. But what it's going to do is that it always return a single value. But that single value is returning can be of any type that you want there. So we have this array here. We have this our results that we want. So let me label them. So here, this one is going to be result, which is what we want to achieve later on there. So this is going to be our list, which is array or anything that looks like array. So that's what I'm calling in list there. And apart from this, we have this initial value. So this one now is going to be our initial value. So this is initial value, but it's very important. So if you are looking at this now, using this our array, so inside our list, we have 70, we have 80, we have 56, we have 70, and we have 92. Hope you can hear me.
Yes, sir.
All right. So we have this value inside this place. And what do we want to do? Yeah. What we want to do is I want to reduce them to a single value. So inside this our initial value. So this one here is what is going to be our initial value there, which you can set to any value that you want. And how does this thing work? The way it works is that this reduce is going to start from this first value, because the job of this reduce is to give you whatever the result that you return from this your array, the previous data that you return from this array, you always get it back. But when you are starting from this first number here, when you are starting with this first item on the list, there is no previous data. So what is it going to use as previous data? That's where this initial value comes in. Because what is always going to give you under this previous one is whatever the results that you return from this your function. Whatever you return from this your function here, that's what is going to turn to previous value. And the current value that is working on, or whatever value is given at a particular time, that's what is going to be our current value. But for the first time, when it's going to start with 70 here, there is nothing like previous value. So which means this is your previous value now. It will be depending on whatever you set as your initial value. The first time is going to start with your list. The previous value is going to be your initial value. So which means the first time it's going to start with this your list. Your current value is going to be 70. So what is that our previous value? We don't have it because this is our starting point. So since we don't have any value yet, then it's going to pick this initial as your previous value. But from this your function, assuming we are returning the index now, assuming we are returning the index from this value. So which means the first time that this function is going to be called here, what is going to have is that our previous value is going to be whatever we pass here. Let me pass something inside it so that it can make sense instead of me just having this initial value here like this. So let me just pass 0 like this. So the first time this stuff is going to run, so the first time is going to run, our initial value is going to be this 0, because we don't have anything before this 70. This is the first item on the list. And since it's the first item on the list, then our previous value here, it's going to be whatever you set as your initial. While the current value is going to be this 70. That's the first time. And whatever you now return from this your function, that's what is going to turn to the previous value. So when you run this, when this reduces runs for the first time, this is going to be our current value, which is the first item on the list, which is 70. Is going to be the current value. So, and we don't have anything before this 70. So which means this previous value now is going to use our initial value as the previous one. And anything you now return from this your function here, that's what is now going to use as our previous value. So which means from this function now, maybe we are returning 2. So the next time this thing gets to, so the next time now that it gets to this 80, let me change. So assuming we are running it for the second time now, so the time it gets to this 80, our previous value is not going to be this initial again. It's going to be whatever you return from this your function. So assuming we are returning the index, the first time the index is going to be 0. So which means our previous value here is going to be 0 that we return. So the previous value is going to be 0. If you return maybe like 30 or any random value, whatever value you return from this your function the first time, that's what is going to turn to the previous value there. And if I return like 5, it means by the time we get to this second item here, and since we return 5 here for the first time, it means our previous value is going to be 5, while our current value is going to be 80 here. And whatever you return for that second time too, that's what is going to turn to your previous value. Whatever you return for a particular value, that's what it's always going to turn to a previous value. Which is here now, if you want to sum all these values together, what is going to happen for the first time when we are on this 70, what is going to happen there is that it's going to see this current value there, which is this 70, the previous value, which is 0. So inside this our function, assuming we are returning, let me return something here. So here I'm returning, what am I returning? I'm going to return my current value like this, then plus previous. So previous value. Let me short all these variables so that they are not that much. But let me just type it. So we have this previous, how many current, how many arrow. What's wrong with my mouse? Yeah, so let me bring this thing back with this list. So assuming this is what we pass to this our function, or this is what we are returning from the function, what is going to happen in the first time this thing is going to run, our current value is going to be 70. So which means here 70 is going to go to this one. But here, since this is the first one, we don't have any previous results. And since we don't have any previous results, then this previous value is going to come from whatever you set as your initial value. So the initial value now is what this one is going to take. And since it's taking this value, what is going to happen there is that this one now, this previous value is going to be 0. The current value is 70. It will add the two of them together. And the result that we are getting here is going to be 70. So it's going to be 70 plus 0, which is 70. And since the result we are getting from here now is 70, this is what is going to turn to the previous value for the next iteration. The first iteration that we're going to do, we don't have any results at that time. So since we don't have any results, it will pick whatever you use as your default value. So here, our default value is, or the initial value is going to be 0. So which means by the time this one is called for the first time, previous is going to be 0, current is going to be whatever iteration that we're dealing with, which is this 70 here. So it will add the two of them together because that's what we are doing here, and we are getting 70. So the next thing it's going to do is that it will move to the second one. And when it moves to this second one, you know that we already have a result. So when we are on this second one, we already have a result. And what is our result? Is this 70 here. So this 70 is what is now going to turn into our previous value. So the new current value now is going to be 80. So which means the next calculation here now is going to be, so the next calculation here is going to be 80 plus 70. I'm arranging it the way they stop here. So current value first, which is 80, is our current value. Then previous value, it is 70. And what are we going to get here? We are going to get the value there like that, which is supposed to, yeah, to give us there. And whatever the results that we are getting here, that's what is now going to be the next previous value. And that's how it keep working until it get to the final value there. So here now, when you add the two of them together, we get this value. So which means the next iteration that we're going to do, which is going to be this, let me use another color, which is going to be 56. So this is the next iteration. So for this next iteration, our current value is going to be this blue. Where is it? So our next iteration, the current value is going to be this, while our previous value will now be this 150. So which means when it's doing the next one, when it's currently working on this value now, the current value is going to be whatever you are getting from the list. Then the previous value is the results that you get from the old iteration that you did there, and the previous iteration under this 80, this is the result. So which means our next result now is going to be the current is 56, then plus 150, which is going to give us the value that we are expecting there like this. So which means here now, for this iteration, our result is this value. So the next iteration now is going to be this 70. And when we get to this next iteration, here, this is going to be our current value. So this is going to be our current value. What's wrong with this thing? So this is going to be our current value. And what is going to be our previous value? The result that we got before, which is going to be this. So which means next time now, or this iteration now, the result we are going to get there, it's going to be our current value, which is this 70, then plus this 106. And that's how it keep doing it on it get to the last one. And whatever the result you get from the last one, that's what this reduce is going to return back. And that's how reduce work. So the job of reduce there is to go through the list that you have here, and whatever you return from that your function, that's what is always going to be the result of the previous one there. So if we are starting with this 70, our current value is going to be 70. So our current value, for example here, if I pass this one, so let me remove this empty stuff here and pass the scores. So pass the scores. So yeah. So since we are dealing with scores, what is going to happen here is that our current value is going to be this 70. But at this moment, we don't have any value before it. We've not completed anything before 70 that we have on this list. We've not completed anything before this item. So since we've not done anything before this number, then it means our previous value is going to be whatever you set as your initial value. And since my initial value here is 0, that's what is going to use as my previous value. And whatever you are doing here, whatever you do inside this your function, whatever you are returning, that's what is now going to turn into our new previous value, and it will go to the next one, which is going to be this 80. And when you get to the 80 here, that's going to turn to our current value. And the result you are getting from this first one will turn to the previous. And whatever you do there again for this second one, that's what is going to turn to your next previous value. And you can use this thing to do your sum, because you know that here now what you want to do is that no, at first we are having this imaginary number here, which is 0, which is going to be our default value. So whatever we have there is our imaginary number. So this is 0 that will set our default value. And what is going to do here based on this calculation that will pass inside, or what we are returning from this function here. So what we are returning is the current value plus the previous value. So which means here, what is going to do is to add these two numbers together. So once we add these two numbers together, what we got there is what is now going to turn to our new previous value. So whatever we got here now, this is our new previous value, then need to combine it with this next one, because that's what we are doing, current value plus the previous one. Again, we are going to get result for this one. So the result we get from this one too is going to combine it with this next number here. So we get another result too, and that result, we combine it with this next number, we get another one again. And again, this is the new result, and this new result has turned to the previous one, then add it to 72, and we now get the final value. What you always get back is just a single value based on whatever you are doing with this your stuff here. It doesn't need to be a single number like this. It can be object that you are returning, or you are saving something inside your object, which is something that we're going to be doing later on there. But for now, we are using it for simple number, which is just adding them together. But it's not just for number alone. Whatever you return here, that's what is going to turn to your previous value. And based on that, you can combine objects or transform one object into another object based on the way the data is coming back and the way you want the items to be transformed there. But don't forget, it's not changing anything. It's going to return a value back. And whatever value is returning back, we need to receive it in case we want to use it. For example, here, I'm going to call it X. And this value x now, I can do whatever I want with it, maybe by console log it out or do something else with it there like that. So let me move this thing back. So this side, and as you can see, we are getting the same result as before. So using this method here, you can use this method, it will work. And that's the beauty thing about programming. You can solve a particular problem in different ways. But which one do you want? It all depends on you. If you want, you can use this method. Let me see what is it on. Can access scores. Yeah, I don't have the scores before this line, so I can't just use it. So let me move it up so that it can be available here too. So sending this into the browser, we should have the results there. So the for this one, you see the same we're getting using the reduce. And if I want to do modification too, it's quite easy. Just duplicate the stuff here, then we call it y. But now, instead of us adding them together, what we can just do here is to multiply. But don't forget, your initial value is 0. And when you are doing
One.
multiplication, it has to be 1, because if you multiply by 0, the result will always come back as 0, because your previous value will always be 0, which is not what we want. So here now, saving this stuff, let's console log out this one too, the y, and we should have the result the way we have it at the top here. So which is the same thing. But always prefer this reduce when I'm dealing with object or a large object that has some data inside it, or I want to transform array to object. If I want to transform this array now to object, it's something that I can do using this reduce, because this one now allows you to transform whatever you want, even though you can use map too. But when you are dealing with map, it's returning array back. It's not returning what you want. This is what I'm saying here. When you map on the array, you know that you're always going to get array back. You are not going to get another set of data. But look at it here now. What we do, we reduce array to a single number or to another type entirely, which is different from what we have before. So with this now, you can use this reduce. It's really powerful to transform your data from one type to another type there. So here now, I can create an object that the key is going to be the index, while the value is going to be the value of that object. So it's going to create an object for me, but inside that object, we are going to have the key based on the index of each one of the value that we have there. And it's something that you can quickly do with this one. If you want to do it normally using your object by typing it on each line, you have to do a lot of work. But with reduce, it's quite easy, just that it's crazy to kind of read like that. For example, here now, I want to have my object, which is going to be this course. And what did I want to do? I want to reduce it. Don't forget, we need to pass our callback or the function. So this thing is going to give us the previous value, which I normally call this prev like that. Or yeah, I used to call it this prev, or you can call it any name you want. So for the current, I used to type it like this. And if you want, because I need this index like this, which I used to call I in general, or you can call it in full, because JavaScript doesn't care about the naming you are using. These are just a parameter that we talked about. They are just representing what you'll be receiving later on. And what did I want to do here? I want to do something here. But what is my, don't forget I said I want to return object. And the first time, we don't have anything yet. So here, I'm setting my default value as this empty object. So which means the first time this thing is starting is going to be an empty object. And inside this place, and don't forget, since we don't have anything for the first time, your current is this your initial. So which means the first time this function will be called, just know that whatever you are using for this initial is what your previous is going to have there. So, and on your object, you can set any data you want by using this array notation. We talk more about this object, but that's the next thing we are moving to add there. And what did I want to do here? So the I, and I want to set it to my whatever the current value. So anytime this function is called, the first time this thing is going to call. So the first time is going to be called. What is going to happen there is that we are going to have empty object. So the first time is going to be called. We are going to have this empty object. And since we have this empty object, our previous now, which is this prev that I'm calling here, is going to be this. So this was going to be our prev for the first time. then the current is going to be this, because that is the first data that we are receiving. And what am I doing inside? What I'm doing inside here is I'm just setting a property on my object. How is it possible? It's because my initial value is what I'm receiving as a pref for the first time. So on this object, what am I doing there? I'm setting a property. And what is the key of the stuff? I'm using the index. Don't forget, array is going to give us the index. So it's giving us the previous, the current, and the index. So the first time, the index will be 1. The second time, the index is going to be 0. The second
Mm.
time is going to be 1, and so forth like that. So which means what this thing is going to create by the time it's done, what I want to create here, by the time it's done, is going to be 1 like this, is going to be 70. So the next time this thing will run, this is what it's going to do for the first time. So this our current now. So now when it's done, the first time, this is what we're going to get. And since we are getting here, the next time it moves to 80, so the next time it will move to 80, what we are going to get there is going to be this. So this is going to be our current, or the pref, it's going to be our pref. Then this 80 now is going to be our current. So it will perform the same thing. Since we are getting this current, on the object, it can update anything there. So the next time now, what we are going to get off, when by the time it's done computing whatever it is here, so the next time now, what is going to be there is going to be this. So first, we have this object. Let me increase this stuff. No. Yeah. So the next time now, what we are going to have, this is what we had before, which is what is there, 70. So the second time, what it's going to do is, no, this is wrong. It's supposed to be 0, like this, because it's index that I'm using. So the second time now, it will now be 1, then 80. So here that I put 1 here is supposed to be 0, because we are dealing with index there like that. So the first time, our initial value is empty. So which means our previous is going to be this. And since it's taking it, I'm passing this index into it, and I'm setting it to whatever the current value. So now, from this my data now, I've transformed it to another set of data by using this reduce, or reduce it to another set of data there. Reduce is really powerful. We're going to see some other example when we're dealing with real data later on. But for now, this is an example that I can just bring out there without talking too much. But later on, it's going to come out there like that. So what was it? So let me console log out the results. So here now, console log out the object, and on the screen we should have the index as what did I get? So let me check. What did I call? I have my pref. Okay. Oh, it's complaining about the index.
If I'm not returning anything.
Yeah. So that's the problem, because I'm returning undefined. So I need to return this object, which is run. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so now I have what I'm looking for. So from this data here, I transform it to another form using reduce, because the data that I want, this is the data I'm getting back for the back end. But what I actually need is that I need to display the data in this form. So with the help of reduce now, I change the way the data is, or map it, or transform it to another set of what I'm expecting there. So anytime this thing is there, based on the data you gave me here, use the index, and the index will be the key of the object. Then the value is going to be whatever you have here like this. Now imagine what you have here is just object. You can do it too, or you can transform it to whatever the data you're expecting on the screen. What the backend is giving you, but you need to reduce it to another particular set of data like that. And you always use reduce a lot with array anytime you need to aggregate, because you have a data, but you want to aggregate some items from it. It's not like you can just pass everything every time. Sometimes you can even condition the stuff. I only want this thing to show the number that are greater than 50. I can actually do that one too. That it will only take only the number that are greater than 50. Any other one that is not like that, just let it go if it's not up to that. For example, here now, what I can just do is to check. So I can check the condition by just saying if your current value that you have, as long as greater than maybe let's say 60 like this, that's the only time we want this thing to happen. Any other one, just skip it, because it's not like map that you have to return a value for that particular set. This one is different from map. This one, you are reducing it to another set of value. So here, I only want to return the one that the value is greater than this thing there. And once you save, I think 56 should be out of it, because when you get to 56, nothing is there. And since nothing is there, it will just return the data that is there before. So this is what is happening. When we start from the zero, from this side, you check, is 70 greater than 60? Yes. So it will pick it by setting the index of it and set it to that value. But when you get to the second one too, it will see that, yeah, it's actually greater than 60. It will pick it up too. So it will set this one and return that, the new data that because we've updated the stuff down. So we are returning the new changes that we made here. But now when you get to this third one, it check the condition. So this thing is not greater than 60. So which means this part is skipped. So the previous value that we had before, which is going to be this 70 and 80, that's what is still going to return back. So which means that 56 now has been skipped. But if you notice something happen here, like that. So yeah, it's there too, because for now, let me just forget about that one, because the index are different, but that one will come in later on. So yeah, it moves to the next number. Yeah, that one too, it's greater than this. So since it's greater than this, it perform the action it needs to do and return that new updated value, because you can update your object. And again too, it get to the last one, and we have all these data that we want. So from this our list now, I was able to transform it to another set of data that I want using the reduce here. So the reduce is really powerful. It's now left for you now to think on how you want to display or how you want to transform your data. Then based on the transformation you want, and the thing is in a form of a list, you can use reduce and it will help you to transform it to that another data. But if you use map, it will never work, because map doesn't return any other type. What you get back is array. So you can actually change this thing here now to, you can change it to map, but you can't supply this default stuff here, because map, it's based on array. So it's going to transform your data to array, but another set of data, but it's still array. But with this one now, we don't want array, we are transforming it to another set of data. From this data now, we're able to extract the sum, we're able to extract the multiplication, and at the same time too, we're able to transform it to another set of data. And this is what you can get when you are dealing with reduce. But the major thing is that, not when you are dealing with reduce, this your proof, the first time you are using it with your list, it's not going to have anything. So you need to supply what you want to use as your initial value. So whatever you supply here, that's your initial value. The first time is going to run on your list. So the first time, which is the list that you have there, so 70 the first time here, our stuff is going to be this object. So whatever you are now returning from this your function, that's what is going to be proof for the second one here. So whatever you return from this one too, that's what is going to be the proof for this one. Whatever you return from here, that's what is going to be the previous for this one. Whatever you return from here, that's what is going to be the previous for this one until it gets to the last one. And the result of the last one is what is now returned back to whoever call this reduce. And that's how it works. And you can always use it anywhere you need to transform your data, or you need to aggregate your list there like that. And you can do it in a different way. So what we did here now, if you want, we can do it using this for of here. But this reduce is more powerful, because it's kind of like simple. It's not that simple, but you just need to understand the concept. And the concept there is, you have the pref, the current value they are currently working on, the index of the current value, and at the same time the entire array. But most of the time you don't need that entire array, because you have it here already. Even if I need something from here, I can quickly call this one. But if you know that you don't have access to this one where it's being called, then you can just receive it directly from here too, like this. But this is just waste of typing, because I have it there already. If I need this course, I can just call it here directly from this place, instead of receiving it here. Most of the time too, you don't need the index, but because of what I want to do with the index here, as you can see, all this one, I'm not using index, so they are just useless to this functionality here. These are the only two things that I need. But here, I need the index, so that's why I'm receiving it, and I can process whatever I want to process with it. And if I want to, I can even do some, because this is object stuff, which I can do some stuff, because the index is starting from 0, but I don't want it to start from 0. I want it to start from 1. So now I can create my dynamic key instead of a key which I'm doing, but I want it from starting from 0. This is object stuff, which is what we are going to next, and like that. And as you can see, instead of starting from 0, it's now starting with 1, but 1 has been skipped there because we are skipping that 56. This is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that other one has been skipped because it did not meet the condition, so we are not saving it at all. But if you want to save everything, then all of them are going to come out the way it's supposed to be, which is going to be 1, 2, 3. So with reduce, you take your list or the collection and you aggregate it, and it's going to give you back whatever the result you are expecting from it. But don't forget, the way it works is that it used the result of the previous one to work on the new one based on whatever you are doing in the function. So it will give you the result of the previous calculation, the current value you are working on, the index of it. Then you cannot do anything you want inside this place. But make sure that you are returning back the value, and the value that you are returning back matches the shape that you're expecting. Because if you go and return something that did not match the shape that you're expecting there, then the thing will give you wrong previous. So there, like that, or which is not going to match what you're expecting. But whatever you are returning, just know that it matches what your previous is expecting there. Because here now that it's expecting object, now imagine I'm just returning a 1 like this. So if I save it, the first time we are getting this object, but the second time, as you can see, what is happening. So what we are returning is just 1. So it will not match what I'm expecting again. Because anytime this thing is returning, it always return 1. So which means for 70, it will return 1, it will return 1, it will return 1, it will return 1, it will return 1. And since it's the last number, then that's the result we are going to get. So just make sure that whatever you are returning, it matches what you want this your previous to give you. Because if you can, that's where the problem used to come from. So what you are returning. So if you don't return the shape that you need for the next one, it will not give you the results that you're expecting there. So yeah, so they've proof like this, and everything should work back. But assuming I'm returning current too, by the time we do this one, the answer will be different. We are doing this stuff, but it's going to do something else, which is what because now I'm returning current, and since I return current, this thing doesn't make sense based on what I want to do. So it will not give me the result that I'm expecting. As you can see, it's giving the last number because that's the last result that I got there, but it's returning back each one of the value. So the first time it will return this, it will give us the previous will be object. We'll do something with it, but after we're done with it, we'll just return that current back. So which means we are returning 70. So by the time we are dealing with 80, our previous is 70 because that's what we return. And instead of doing that, we need to return the correct stuff that you want. So the major thing is return the correct shape of the data that your previous or the next iteration is expecting there. If you don't return the correct data, then the result is not going to be what you'll be expecting there. And that's how reduce work, which is something you always use a lot. And we're going to use it later on too when we are dealing with a collection or objects that come with a particular data. But from that data, we want to extract out some stuff and compress it to a single value or to compress it to another set of information that we want to display or that you want to showcase to the user on the screen there, which you can combine a lot of other array methods together to kind of derive some stuff that you want. Instead of us doing what we did before, because what we just did here now, there is a problem with this stuff. There's a problem with one of the stuff we did now that we overlook there. But if you want to solve this kind of a problem, you need to do it in another way, but by extract the data you need first before you now reduce. Because here now, console logger this in, you see that our index is not proper. So our index is not proper using
Yes.
this method here. So let me bring this thing back. So this one here. our index is not proper once we remove all these things in this way. As you can see, we have one, we have two, we're supposed to have three, but it jumped to four because there is a number that is skipped here. But we don't want to be like this. So what, instead of you doing it inside the reduce here, you can use your filter first to remove the data you don't want. Like you filter out the data you don't want, then you now reduce so that this index can come out the way you're expecting it to be. So instead of us doing it like this, what we can do is remove this one from here, carry out this condition here like this. We don't need to be doing inside reduce because of the key. Assuming the key is not number like this, maybe it's using some other thing that are not related to each other, then you can do it from here. But with this one now, what we can do is just to filter out what we don't need. So first, filter out what you don't need. So here I will receive the value 2. And what I want to do is that the value is always greater than 60. So the only one it will return for us, which means here it will filter out this 56. So by the time the filter is done, filter will return 70, 80, 70, 92. So that's what reduce will be saying there. So reduce is not going to even see this 86. So which means by the time this index is out, what we are going to have is 1, 2, 3, and 4 straightforward there like that. So it all depends on how you want to aggregate your data or the set of data you want to display to the user. So sometimes, what did I type here? This is not current. So this is error here because what I'm receiving is value. So save it like this. Extract out only the number that is greater than 60 there, and from there we are going to get what we are expecting. As you can see, the index is now correct. So sometimes you have to combine it with other methods to get what you want, or even if you want, you can map all these numbers to their this thing. So this, most of the time, this is what you do, not just use reduce directly. You still need to process the data first before you now reduce it to the set of the data that you want. So here, receive the value. I only need the so whatever value that you are giving, just multiply it by 2. So not the number itself, but we want to have the double of it like that. So before we now transform it to the data. So from the object, we receive it, we filter out what we don't need, we map through it to return a new set of data, then we now reduce it to the final answer that we are looking for. So maybe the calculation you want to do, you want to know the sum of the products. Like you always do all this in a lot when you're dealing with a data that you need to process or you need to do some cleaning for them before you now get the final result there like that. And instead of me doing like this, I can just multiply or add them together to get the aggregate of the sum of the stuff like that. And you can do some other thing with it. So this the stuff. So for today, the major stuff that we are supposed to talk about is objects. So we need to start with our objects because there is some stuff I want to talk about. You know how to create object already. You have been working with objects, so we are just going to um, brush through some stuff and then bring in some new stuff that might be new. Most especially this keyword here. This thing is actually crazy. And when you are dealing with any other framework apart from React, there you only see this. Even in React, this thing is there too. Just that we don't create components using class again like that. So, but before React 16, the way you create your component is through class. But these days now, React is now using functions. So you won't be dealing with this key. But when you're dealing with, when you move outside of React or when you are doing some complex stuff that is outside of React, even though in your React program, there's some stuff you need to do outside of it that you need to bring in. So it might have all these things. Or you might see in the code that why are you using this thing? What is it? So that's the reason why we need to talk about all these things. And on the when you are dealing with objects is just a collection of data where it have key and the value, which is what we did here. We have a key and we have the value, and anytime you need to access the value, you come through the key of the object. But how do you create objects in JavaScript? You know that to create object, the simplest way there is just by using the curly brace like this. So once you have this curly brace, you have your object. This is one way. This is not the only way that you can use to create object. We're going to see the other method there. And you know that inside the object, you are going to have your key value pair. So we have the key and you are going to have whatever the value that you want to set there like that. And this is the shape that you always have there. You have the object, you have the key and you have the value. For example, here we have the user. So the user is going to have a name like this. So the user will have name, complete it. So you are sleeping.
Go on with you, sir.
Yeah, no, not you, not you. I'm talking about this. I want this thing to complete the name for me, but it's sleeping. Okay, so we have the name, we have the level, and for example, here it is going to be 800. But yeah, you know about the object, but something about the object key is that whatever stuff you are using as object key, they are always string. Hope you know about that. Whatever you are using as object key, they are always string. So which means this
Mm.
name, this level, even if I use number, this thing here is going to be string. Whatever you are using as the object key, they are string. It will convert to you. It's kind of easy. It look like number, but to the object is just a string. Even though we are using number, behind the scene, what is going to happen is this. But for your like convenience there, that's the reason why you don't put them in a quote when it's just a valid this in there. So you don't need to put it like this. It's just waste of typing like that. Behind the scene, it will convert all your key to a string there. So whatever you are using as the key there is going to convert them to, so this one should just be testing. So for this one, it should be home and so forth like that. Whatever you are using, they are not what you are thinking them to be. So this is not true. This is not boolean. This is not number. All of them, it's going to convert it to string. And at the same time too, when you are creating object, some of the key that you want to create, they have to be dynamic, which is what we did here. That's what we did here. Sometimes the key that you want to use is not something that you know ahead of time. You know the way it's going to come in, but you don't really know the key. That you don't really know the value, but you know that the value is going to come in, but you don't know that exact value. Just like the way it is here. I know that the key is going to be either 1, 2, 3, but I don't know the time it's going to be set. So what do I do with my object? You can set your key dynamically there, or you can give it a dynamic key. And when you want to create a dynamic key, you have this square bracket. Whatever you put inside the square bracket is going to treat it like a variable. So here now, if I put something like this now, it will not take this one as string. It's going to take it as a variable. So which means it will pick whatever you have here inside it and convert it to what is going to use as the value. So both of them are not the same thing. Yeah. So this one is looking for a variable level. This one is just a normal string. So the one we have on this line 303 is just a normal string, but the one we have on this line 306 is not string. This is a base. It will look for this variable, and whatever that is inside this variable, that's what is going to use as the key. And please, whatever you want to use, it needs to be a valid key that your object will accept, because whatever you have there, it must be something that can be converted to string. If it's not something that can be converted to string, it will give you error there like that. So yeah, I will have what can I even put there? So let me just put my school like this. But this thing is going to complain because it will look for where this thing is coming from, and what's wrong with it? Load, 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 load. Do I have level somewhere? Ah, because I don't have any levels somewhere. So let me console log it out. So we have this our user that we want to get. So console log out the user. We have, let me see what it's using, because it's supposed to treat it as a dynamic key. So whatever you pass inside the square is going to treat it as a dynamic key. And as you can see, I'm not seeing anything because it's supposed to see this one as a variable. And since it's not there, then it's not working the way it's supposed to work. But in order for this thing to work, let me create a variable, or you can name it anything you want there like that. It has to be a valid string, so it can be any value that can be used as a string there. And yeah, it will not come outside, so I know the reason why it's not showing now. Let me cut everything out. because I'm running this thing from a separate script. So save. So I'm supposed to get the error. So this is week two. Let me open script for week two. I know that we are supposed to get the error. We're supposed to look for the variable, but I'm running it from another script. So here we have objects like this. So objects, because we are dealing with week two, and week two has its own JavaScript. So let me close this week one so that it doesn't get mixed up. So week one should be closed. We are now in week two. So yeah, let me save the stuff again. Yeah, can you see? This is what I'm getting. So now I'm running the stuff from script 2. So anytime you have the square bracket there, whatever you have inside the square is going to treat it as a dynamic key. So if you leave it like this, it will see it as variable. But if you put it in a quote, it will work. So if you put it in a quote, it will work the way you're expecting it to be, because it will interpret it as a value like that. But if you leave it like this, it's going to interpret it as a variable. And that variable, whatever that value that is inside it, that's what it's going to use as the key here. So now, defining the key up here is what is going to be here is on level, is whatever the value that you have inside the object, which is what we always use anytime you are creating a dynamic key. Anytime you have a dynamic key, you always use this method here, and as you can see, that's what is now using as the key. So it will pick the value of the variable and it will convert it. But if I put it in a quote, then it will take this one as a normal value like this. So it's not seeing this variable again, it's just seeing your normal text that you type, because now it's in a quote. So, and don't forget, you can't have two key in your object. You can't have two key of the same name in your object. The last one will always win. So the last one will always win. So if you save this one now, as you can see, we have level of 800 and we have level of my school like that. And as you can see, we are not seeing the one of 800. The one we are seeing is my school. So you can't have one key two times in your object there. You can't have it two times. You can only have key once. And if you define it again, the last one we always take over the previous one that you have. And if I move this one down, then that means the value of our level is going to be 800 instead of this my school that's here like that. So this is how it works. So when you are dealing with this thing, you can create your key dynamically there, or something that can come from a variable that is coming from the API. You know that this thing will come in, but you don't really know the exact value. Maybe you are dealing with a variable or the username. You know that this thing is the username is going to come, but you don't know whether the username is Rasta or it is Faatihat or it is James. You shall know that this thing will always come back, and you want to set it on your object. And you don't need to do it directly like this. If this object that has been defined before, you can still update anything on it. So here now, on this user now, I want to set the username key to whatever the API is returning back to me, or whatever I'm getting back in your code there like that. But this one now is not going to treat it as a key, it's going to treat it as variable. And whatever the value that is inside this variable is going to pick it up and set it. And if I save this one now, it's going to give us error because we don't have any variable like username like that. But once we define this variable, then we are going to have the value that we are expecting to have there like that. So another thing that is common there that you always do is this object destructuring here. Like you can destructure your object just like the way we did with the array. We have it too for the object. Now imagine we have this object, but out of this object I want to select some data from it, or I want to create a variable out of this object here based on the key that we have inside it. So we can quickly create, or we can quickly destructure our object. For the array we use square bracket, and for the object we use the same curly brace there. And when you are destructuring your object, the key have to match. When you are dealing with destructuring for object, the key that you define inside the object must match the variable that you are setting. But you can change it or you can rename it. We call it rename. But by default, whatever you are taking from the object, the key must match the variable that you are defining there. So if I want to take the name here now, so it means I can create a variable name, which is coming from the key that is inside this object. So something you can do on a separate line by just do something like this. For example, level is going to be user then dot level like this. But when you want to create a variable out of the object data there, you can destructure the data from the store by creating the variable and you call whatever you need to pick there. But it will not work because I already have a variable here there like that. So this one is going to do the same thing as what I'm doing on this line. But what is the advantage of this one? I can quickly extract out what I need from the list. So like this, I can quickly extract whatever I need from my items there like that. But I don't want to use all this illegal stuff. So let me create a proper object that I can use here. So down here, I'm going to create the user. So inside the user, we have a name, which is going to be this. So we have the level, which is going to be 800. We have the address, so we have the address, and under the address we have the home, which is going to be home address. So we are going to have the office address. So this is going to be office because you can actually destructure a nested. So this is going to be office here. So now if I want to take anything from this object through the key there, what we can do is to destructure the object. So from this side now, from this object, we are creating a variable name, and the value of name is coming from whatever the key that matches the variable that we are creating here. And from here, I can quickly extract out what I need. So I need the name, I need the level. So I'm creating all this variable on the fly, and they are getting their value from this our object. So the name and the level, now we are going to get it from whatever we have inside our object, or if this object is coming from here, or something the user is typing from the box, and you need to extract that what you need from it, you can quickly destructure your object there. But this is simple stuff. This is not where you can stop, because what if you have this variable somewhere, which is what we have now at the top here. Now imagine we have this variable here, and it is not something that you can change the name, so it will cause a problem here, because the variable you are trying to create down here, it's already at the top here. Or you import something from a library, or you install a particular UI library, and whatever they are giving you is clashing with the object that you are creating there. So what do you need to do? What we can do here is to rename the variable that you are creating out of this object. So when you are destructuring the object and you need to change the name to another value, so what you can do is to use this method here, where you are going to have the variable, and in front of it you are going to rename it. So whatever you put here is what you are renaming it to, like that. So this, or let me just put it like this, we have the key. So this is the key that we're using to take something from the object, but we are renaming it to another value because we don't want this thing to clash with what we have already, just like what we have for this level. So this level now is clashing with what we have at the top here, because you can create two variables two times using const or using less. You can only do it once. So what can we do here? So we are telling this in here now that we want to take level from this our user, but when it's back, this is the name of the variable that we are creating. So this is going to be user level like this. So from this object user, we are looking for level. So but the variable we are creating is this particular user level, and there's no problem again with what we have at the top here. So this is what you can use to rename your variable that you are structuring from the object there. And at the same time too, instead of doing this rename, anywhere the value minus exists there, for example here now, if I put maybe let me just say home here. So console log out this home, you are going to see that we are getting undefined, because for example here now, you are loading the user data from the API, and you know that normally the user is supposed to have their username, is supposed to have their picture, and is supposed to have other information that is related to the user. But now imagine that the user just signed up for the first time and they don't really have any picture. You know that the picture is supposed to come back, but what if that key is not part of that object for that user? So you can create your variable, or you can destructure the variable, and you can give it a default value that this thing is going to use anytime there is no value for that particular key. So here now we don't have anything like home, and since there is nothing like home here, what we can do is to give it a default value. So for your picture that you want to display, if the user doesn't set any picture, this is the location of the default picture that I want to show. But I'm destructuring this data from here. If it is here, use it. For example, here now, DP like this. So if the DP available on this user, give me the value. But if it doesn't exist on the user, then use whatever the address of the your normal placeholder profile that you want to use. And once you extract this thing out, then you can now use it anywhere you want to use the stuff on the screen there. But you can destructure a value from your array. You can rename the key to another name at there, and at the same time you can give it a default value. And all this thing is the same thing that you do with array, but the advantage of this one over array is that the order doesn't matter. So when you are dealing with object, the order doesn't matter. You don't need to arrange it according to the way the object is structured. So you can change the name to, or you can arrange it anyhow you want. So instead of me putting this name first, because we have it first here, that one doesn't matter with object. You can structure it anyhow you want. So the level can be the last, and the name can be the last, the level can be the last, the DP can be the last, or any one of them can start. So this thing doesn't care because it's object. You are extracting it out based on key. But when you are dealing with array, you know that one now we talk that the order matter. So when you are dealing with array, the way you are packing it matters. So here if you create x1 and you have x2, so and here now you have 1 and 2, the way, or 1 and 3 here, the way you are arranging them matters. So x1 will go for 1 and x2 will go for 3. But if you change the arrangement for the array, then this one too will be different. So now x2 is 1 and x1 is 3. But for object, you don't need to do that because we are using key. And since we are using key, this one will always work no matter how you arrange the stuff there like that. This one will always work. I'm coming. Let me check what's the time now before I move into this new this little stuff to the list. So this is how you can destructure the stuff. And again, these our object too come with methods that you can use on them, which simplifies some processing that you can do with it. Some of them you might have used them. I think you've used. So for example, here we have your object now. So once you use the dots on it, it comes with some bunch of object or the method you can use on the object. But this is not the object that I want. This is the object here that I want to talk about. This object itself that is here. So this object, it comes with some methods that we can use on it to transform the data in our object. And as you can see, this object here now, this class, we're going to be talking about this classes stuff when we get to under this OOP. But we have this class in the JavaScript already. And on it here, we have some of these static method. What is static method? We're going to talk about all those things when we get to the classes there. But this object is a class. And this class, it comes with some of these static methods. And what is static method? We know about them when we get it. So one of it is this key here that you can use to quickly get the key of your object. So if in case you need the key of all this your object, what we can do here is to just, what you do is pass the object that you want to get the key, and it's going to give you the array of the key that is inside that object. And this one is really useful anytime you need the key because you want to do some display on the screen. Maybe here now, all this name, the type of the data you have there. So the name, the level, the address, you want to get all this key and you want to display somewhere on the screen. And at the same time too, you want to get the value. This object is giving us all this functionality or the methods that we can use to quickly get what we are looking for. And it's going to return them in a form of array here. And you can do some aggregates with them with the array method. So keys will give you all the keys that is inside the object. But what if you don't need the key? I need all the values. So instead of using keys, we can use the values. So maybe you only want to extract out all the value from your object. You don't care about the key. Then this one is going to return. But don't forget, the data that you always get back is array of all the values that you have for each one of the keys there. And as you can see here, for the first one, we have the Faatihat, we have 800, and we have the third one because it will give us the value that we are expecting from our object there. And the other one here is this entries, in case you need both the value and the key. So you need the key and you need the value. And I normally use this thing a lot when I'm getting data from database and the structure of the key and value is the same thing I have on the screen. So here now, I want to display this user. So the key I want to display there is this. This is the title. This is the value. So this is another title. This is the value. This is another title, even though this one is complex, which is something you can now do reduce for later on. There. But for now, uh, let's just say this one too is a simple data that you want to display on the screen. From here now, I can receive the key and the value, and from there I will just map through it, then display it to the screen instead of me taking them one by one. Know the data that's going to come back from the back end, and from there here now it's going to give us the array, and this array is going to be a nested array that contain both the key and the value for each of the items that you are have inside your array. So the first one, this is the key and this is the value. For the second one, this is the key and this is the value. The next one, this is the key and the value. But this one now, we need to transform this one too down to a normal value. We are going to see how to do something like this later on when we are talking about recursion there like that. So when we get to the recursion part, you are going to see how you can create a function that can call itself if you see a data that looks like the option that you pass into it. So it will go down, simplify that one before it now join everything together. So when we get to the recursion part, you are going to know about this because when you want to bring something like sidebar, what you do there, you don't really, because the sidebar you want to build, it can have a nested item. That nested item too can have another nested item. How are you going to determine, okay, is this thing going to be one nested item or is it going to be two? Is it going to be three? You don't know, but you know that this thing can have a nested item. So how do you now create something like this? It's only one component that you're going to have there, but this your component can render itself. So once you see the data that is coming back, oh, this one have children, okay, you too, go down and render. And that's what we call recursion there. And we're going to talk about it when we are done with, I think it should be part of week 3 that we're going to talk about it, because it's really like the thing is really powerful. Anytime you need to create a function, or even you can use it for your component, because component to their function. So any component that needs to call itself, you can use something like that. And this is what I'm saying here, which is some of these UI library are using there like that. Let me see. So there is a UI library. So what can you do anytime you want to create something like this? I think I'm using it from for a particular site that I'm working on. And what did I do there? I only have a single component, but that component can call itself based on whether it have a nested item or not. So if it have a nested item, then call yourself. And if that one too is having another nested item, it will keep calling itself until it gets to the last one that doesn't have something like that. But we're going to see it when we get to that part. So don't let me waste the time there, but I will show you that one tomorrow. So this is how you can work with this stuff. But I told you when we started with this object that you can create objects using different methods. So this is the simplest way of creating object. When you know whatever you have there like that, you have the name, you are the one creating the object. But what if you want to create an object based on another set of data that you have there? Maybe you have an object, that object you want to create a copy of it, or you have an array that looks like the structure of your data, and from that array now you want to create object. You can do it directly by using what this object is giving to us. So on this object method here, we have something revert to as from entries. So this is the only one we talked about. The other one we continue from there. Then we talk about this keyword, this getter and setter, because they are very important too there. So imagine we have this data. So I have this data, and this data is just going to be array of data. So I have the name, which is like the entries that we got from this side. So we got this entry, which created something like this. But now imagine you are getting something like this from the back end, or you have the data like this, where you have the name, which is Faatihat like this. So the other data you have there, so we have level. So I have level, which is 800, which is like creating what I have there. And again, I have which is going to be address, and for the address, my address here. So this kind of a data here, you can use the reduce now to convert it to object. Anytime you have data in this form, instead of you using reduce, object actually have a better way of creating object out of this particular data here. So instead of you using reduce to convert this into object, which is something you can do by using what we talked about under the reduce, but instead of you doing that, we can actually create object out of it by using this object then from entries. So this object from entries is useful when you want to create an object from different entries. And what are entries here? They are array, it is map, we have set, and some other type of entries that you can see later on there. But majorly, when you are dealing with entries, it can help you to convert your array to objects. It can help you to convert your set, which we are going to be talking about when we get there after the class. It can help you to convert your map to object directly. What is map? We are going to talk about it later on. But for here now, I can just supply my data. The same thing that you are going to do using reduce here to convert it to object, the same thing is what this from entries is going to do. But before the for entries can work, it has to be in this structure. So it has to be array of an array that the first one is the key and the second one is the value. This is the pattern it must follow before it work. So when you are creating this thing, it's going to have this structure. And inside the structure, the first item on the list is going to be the key. The second one is going to be the key. So this is the first items here. So this is going to be the second one. This is the key, this is the value. So this is going to be the next property. This is the key and this is the value and so forth like that. And this one now, we can console log it out and you see that it's going to create the object of for us. So not that is going to be obj like this and save. Then it's going to convert this our array of array there to the object we are expecting. But instead of you using this method, don't forget you can use the reduce, which is going to be an assignment for you. So you are going to, I hope you can see my screen. So what you are going to do here now, here I have converted to object, but you are not going to use this method that I use now. What you are going to use is the reduce. So you need to have this kind of a data structure, then you reduce it, but whatever is going to reduce down, it's going to create an object for us. So we want to create your own. So what you do is create a function. So this is the assignment here. So first, create a function so that receive array of data. And what I mean by this array of data, it's going to be this structure as you can. This is the array, but inside it is going to have this structure. So this is the structure that you're going to use to test the stuff of tuple. Let me call it tuple like this. And what is tuple? Is going to be key and it's going to be value. So this is what is going to be there. So this your function will return. So the created objects are there. So this function should work. Whatever data you pass into it, whatever the array of this tuple you pass into it, is going to create an object out of it. And what you are going to use is reduce. So you are going to use using the array reduce method here. So I'm going to send this in to you on WhatsApp like that. So what you need to do here, create a function. That your function is going to receive parameter. Parameter is going to receive is this array of tuple. And what I'm called the tuple, this is the tuple here. You have the tuple is going to follow this structure, the key, the value. But your function there, what is going to return back to whoever call it is the object based on whatever they pass it here. So just like the way it is here, as you can see that on this object, we have this method. For you now, you are going to create your own function that is going to be doing something like this. But once you pass this something like this into it, it will return the object. And the user too, whatever, as you can see here, is returning back the result. The result I'm setting it to this object. And console log out the stuff. You see that on the screen, I have this thing in a form of object. And you too now, you need to create a function that is going to do the same thing. For example, here, you're going to have the function. So from array to object like this. So from array to object. So it's going to receive the data, and whatever it is going to return is going to be the object based on the tuple of an array that is being supplied to you there like that. And tomorrow, I will continue from there by talking about this keyword, the getter and setter, and we talked about this OOP, then, but we're going to spend a lot of time tomorrow. So what's this then? So tomorrow we're going to get to around that 1 hour 30 minutes or so, because I want to finish all this one this week so that we can go into something else next week by talking about modules, talking about recursion, and some other stuff that might comes in there. So that's going to be all for today. We'll continue from there tomorrow by 8. We are meeting by 8 tomorrow, not 9. We will be meeting by 8 tomorrow.
All right.
All right.